Greetings and Chatelet, everybody. This is going to be a new video on the Grado GH3, and what I want to tell you right up front is that my YouTube site does not have comments because Google won't cooperate. They don't honor their commitment to allow the users to moderate comments, and or they don't allow users that are not part of Google Plus to do that. Whatever, blah blah blah. Bunch of crooks like everybody else. Anyway, this headphone here, I've shown this before, but I'm going to go over some things again, a little recap, but I'm going to have new information. There's a Grado carry case, and the Grado carry case is made perfectly for mostly every Grado headphone, except for the giant ones. The big ones like the PS1000 won't fit in here, I don't think. But all the regular size will. And another thing I wanted to do here that I didn't show in the first one, and that is the EQ curve. Now remember, when you're looking at this, an EQ curve is upside down from a frequency response curve. So where you see a boost here at 40 hertz of 6 decibels, and those vertical lines are 6 decibels apart. The when you see this right here, it means the actual response would be recessed, by 6 decibels at 40 hertz. So anyway, the sudden transition from black to gray are 100 hertz, 1,000 hertz, and 10,000 hertz. So as you look across this curve, besides having a weak lower bass, we've got a couple little tiny emphases that I've pushed down at around 1,504 kilohertz. Very small, about 2 decibels. Not significant. And then we got a little peak there at 9 kilohertz. I estimate it to be 6 decibels, but that could vary a bit depending on how your ear pinnae do that, But I think compared to a lot of different headphones and with a lot of direct comparisons and everything else, I think I had that pretty close. But anyway, it's a pretty good curve, except for a little weakness in the lower bass. But what I have found is that boosting the lower bass like that is with this parametric equalizer is that the bass is still very, very clean and detailed. So the boost works great. I think anybody who has a bass control and everything else are going to find that to be very satisfactory. These are full-up Grado drivers, so in other words, when you boost the bass on these or whatever you have to do, the sound is still going to be very clean. You're not going to get any distortion. These drivers are not going to break up until you go well above ear damage levels. So a little closer look at this. There's a little more red on the left ear cup here, but that's basically the pattern that we get with these. We get these streaks in this Norwegian wood here, and I think if you look really close, you can see the red in the left ear cup underneath there. Those indicate the new Grado drivers. And we'll once again just go ahead and pull the ear pad off. So you see the ear pad there, and then you see the ear pads off here. We have a gorgeous Grado driver in there. So the difference between this and the GH4, the bigger one is that the GH4 is bigger. Has twice as much wood, I guess. And I think my instinct with the GH3 was that it would have less space, may have less spaciousness and less of other things and so on and so forth. But anyway, after reading some other people's comments, I decided that maybe this would be pretty good after all. And it turns out to be so good that I don't even know that I'm actually going to get a GH4, because this thing is, with the bass boost, it's just great. Really, really good Grado sound. So I don't think I'm missing anything at all. One thing I wanted to say about the cord with this second review is this is supposedly the 4-conductor cord from Grado, and the GH4 and SR325 and those other full-size headphones would have the 8-conductor cords. It'd be a much heavier cord. I find this cord to be good enough that I wish I could get if I could get a GH4 with this cable installed, the 4-conductor cable, I'd be very happy with that. And it wouldn't make any difference in the sound. The sound difference would be so so minor that wouldn't really make any difference. But this is the kind of cable that I would like, is the skinny one from the GH3. Any other Grado headphones I get, I wish I could get the smaller cable, because, you know, when you're sitting real still and you just move around a little bit, the heavier the cable, the more, you know, more cumbersome that gets trying to manage that cable. So, okay, so we looked at the frequency response curve, and I want to go back to my notes here and wrap this thing up. I'm going to do a new written review, so we'll see a lot of that, a lot of this commentary in a written review with some more detail. But anyway, let's just set this up here for a minute so we have something to look at. Again, the GH3 was the smaller half-size version of the GH4. However, the drivers are full-up Grado drivers. I don't think these drivers are smaller than the GH4. I don't think so. And where I was worried about the spaciousness is all here. And bass is really the only, you know, essential difference I see between this and the larger headphones. And the boost just works so perfectly. And I listen to pipe organ music, and I mean, you know, if you like the deep organ pedals and everything else, with a bass boost, you'd be happy with this headphone. If you don't want to use a bass boost, or you're a bass head or whatever, then you're not going to like it. So I also thought maybe the treble would be a little rougher here with smaller air cups, but nope, it's pretty darn smooth. So anyway, so much for the bass, so much for the sound stage, which is great. The sound stage is going to be better than pretty much any closed headphone. You'd have to get up to one of the big Sennheiser closed $1,800 one before you might get a bigger sounding soundstage, but it still won't sound as open. That's the key. The open back headphone here on the GH3 makes all the difference in the world. So anyway, what I'm going to do with my written review is I'm going to incorporate different tracks than I did with the original review. The original review had the general purpose stuff all over the place, and I'm going to use mostly EDM, you know, electronic music tracks for the second review. So let's see, we're talking about the bass here, and actually even without the EQ on here, the bass is still pretty neutral, pretty close. So we saw the ear pads, and you notice that the ear pads, of course, the foam actually covers the driver. So that was one thing about the GW100 when I first got it. It was the first Grado I've had where the foam actually covered the driver. And the interesting thing is that even though the ear pad looks the same, has that same foam covering the driver as the GW100, this headphone has greater clarity, obviously greater clarity than the GW100. So I'd say this is a full-up Grado when it comes to clarity. I think it's excellent, and so there we go. So and we already talked about the wood in these ear cups. I don't know what the wood does exactly, because it's unique, you know, and it sounds great. It's very smooth. So that's about all I got here with the cable and the ear cups and all the other things. And I don't have any reservations about this headphone anymore like I did originally. And except for like I said, the bass part is because, you know, I think for most people that use headphones and everything else, they're going to want to boost that bass a little bit. And most of the controls will probably work just great, because my boost is just a nice gentle curve there at 40 hertz, which we saw. So I think all that's going to work out pretty good, and I think anybody that buys this thing that's willing to deal with the bass is going to love it and save himself a bunch of money, because this junior version of the Heritage series is only $325, and that compares to somewhere between $550 and $650 for the larger ones. So there we go. Thank you very much.